Global trade is being shaken to its core, as the rules that have governed international commerce for decades are suddenly being rewritten. At the center of this upheaval is a single word: tariffs. Once a technical term, tariffs are now front-page news, affecting businesses and consumers alike. The Trump administration imposed a sweeping 50% tariff on all global steel and aluminum imports. A move designed to protect American jobs and industries from foreign competition. But this bold action disrupts decades of carefully built, integrated trade, especially with Canada, the United States' closest economic partner and ally. Suddenly, Canadian aluminum is much more expensive for U.S. companies to buy, upending supply chains that were built on trust, efficiency, and mutual benefit. The once seamless flow of materials and products across the border is now fractured, forcing businesses on both sides to rethink long-standing relationships and adapt to a new, uncertain reality. Free trade, once taken for granted, is no longer the default. Tariffs have become the new normal, and access to the U.S. market must now be negotiated, often with high stakes. Countries like the European Union and Japan have reluctantly accepted steep tariffs, hoping to avoid even harsher penalties and maintain some access to the lucrative American market. For Canada, the 50% aluminum tariff is more than just a financial blow. It's a breaking point, triggering a dramatic pivot in its trade strategy, and forcing the country to seek new partners and new opportunities beyond its southern neighbor. The sudden imposition of the tariff made Canadian aluminum far too expensive for American manufacturers almost overnight, disrupting a trade relationship that had been stable for decades. Factories that once relied on a steady, affordable supply of Canadian aluminum were forced to look elsewhere, and the ripple effects were felt across both countries. With their largest and most dependable market suddenly closed off, Canadian producers had to act quickly. They set their sights on Europe, a region not only open to new suppliers, but also actively seeking high-quality, low-carbon aluminum to meet its ambitious climate targets. Europe's aggressive climate goals and its growing demand for sustainable, responsibly sourced materials made Canadian aluminum especially attractive. European industries, from car makers to construction, were eager to find greener alternatives to traditional, carbon-heavy metals. Most Canadian aluminum is produced using clean hydroelectricity, giving it a significant environmental advantage over competitors who rely on coal or other fossil fuels. This green edge became a powerful selling point in the European market. European buyers, recognizing the environmental benefits, are willing to pay a premium for Canadian aluminum. For them, it's not just about the metal, it's about supporting a cleaner, more sustainable supply chain. The result? Canadian aluminum now flows east across the Atlantic, rather than south to the United States. This shift has reduced Canada's dependence on the U.S. market and opened up new opportunities for growth. Meanwhile, American manufacturers are left scrambling for alternatives. Many of these options are not only more expensive but also less sustainable, putting additional pressure on U.S. industries to adapt. This dramatic shift leaves U.S. companies facing higher costs, increased competition for limited supplies, and a growing sense of uncertainty about the future of their supply chains. While Canada finds a new, enthusiastic buyer in Europe, American industry is left searching for solutions to fill the gap left by lost Canadian imports. The trade landscape between North America and Europe has fundamentally changed, reshaping global supply chains and creating new winners and losers in the aluminum industry. The tariff's impact is hitting American factories hard. With Canadian aluminum out of reach, U.S. manufacturers scramble for alternatives, driving up scrap aluminum prices. Automakers like Ford and GM, and giants like Boeing, now face soaring material costs. Smaller suppliers with thin margins are especially vulnerable. Some may lay off workers or shut down. The policy meant to protect American industry is squeezing it instead. Higher costs ripple through the supply chain, ultimately raising prices for consumers. Everyday goods, from cars to soda cans, are getting more expensive. This is tariff-driven inflation in action. The intended shield for American jobs is now a source of pain for workers and families. There's an environmental twist to this trade story, one that's shaping the future of global industry in ways many don't realize. Canadian aluminum, produced using abundant hydroelectric power, stands out as some of the world's cleanest and most sustainable metal. This process dramatically reduces carbon emissions compared to traditional methods, making Canadian aluminum highly sought after by environmentally conscious buyers. For years, U.S. industries benefited from this low-carbon supply, using Canadian aluminum to lower the environmental footprint of everything from cars to airplanes, and helping American products compete in a world increasingly focused on sustainability. But now, with tariffs in place, American companies are forced to look elsewhere, often turning to higher carbon sources such as coal-powered aluminum from Asia. This shift increases emissions and undermines progress toward cleaner manufacturing. European buyers, on the other hand, are rewarding Canada for its green production methods. They're willing to pay a premium for sustainable aluminum, recognizing the value of low-carbon materials in meeting their own climate commitments. Meanwhile, the US is left with dirtier, more expensive materials, undermining both its competitiveness and its climate goals, and making it harder for American manufacturers to keep up with global standards. Europe is building a cleaner, greener industrial base, investing in renewable energy and sustainable practices, while US policy is pushing American products in the opposite direction, toward higher emissions and greater costs. The environmental cost of these tariffs is real and growing, with pollution and carbon emissions rising as a direct result of policy choices. If the US doesn't adapt, it risks falling further behind in the global race for green manufacturing and missing out on the economic opportunities of a cleaner future. America faces a crossroads. The aluminum tariff, meant to protect jobs, is raising costs and threatening competitiveness. Should the US reconsider its approach, or double down and hope for long-term gains? The choices made now will shape the future of American manufacturing jobs and climate leadership. Europe is moving ahead with cleaner industry. Will the US keep up or fall behind? It's time for an honest discussion about the true costs of this trade policy. The path forward will determine the fate of American workers, consumers, and the planet.